course, it merged. I don't even think I thought it. Not yet. It does say draft one. Was this last?
That's departmental.
Yeah, it's a little more detailed.
Okay. No sound.
Kind of tight. That might be the one that doesn't light up. That's the.
Not lighting it.
I think the light is broken.
Oh, okay, we're good.
All right, we need that one. You saw that wall of the dish.
Yeah.
When I got back to London, it was the middle.
Beverly Hillbilly way. All right. Good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. on June 17th. This is a special city council meeting. Let's bring it to order, and now let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Present.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Kim Shaw Elliott.
Present.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Reefler.
Here.
All right, thank you, Renee. We have one item, or actually two. The first is for approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Kim Shaw Elliott. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Frank Bankert. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The agenda is approved. Now we're on to item 2. This is for consideration of increasing quantities of B23-01 street and drainage improvements from 9th Street to Morgan Drive to maintain a consistent flow line in valley curb on certain nearly level streets and replace curb on 22nd Street. Kyle, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. This item on the agenda is to cover the current stormwater project that we started at Morgan Drive and we moved from 25th to 23rd. And then now we're down here working on Cedar, Spruce and Palm. But this item will discuss specifically 23rd Street where we're seeing the curb is not, it's atypical. It's not your standard valley curb, and there's some factors involved on that street that our engineer Larry Flutie is going to explain, and what his recommendation is for that street. So the reason that it says to discuss increasing quantities, a lot of these items are already on the bid. It's a matter of increasing the quantity to achieve the level of the flow line that we want to see in the curve, as well as the typical V shape and the fall for the water to drain. It also discusses 22nd Street. 22nd Street was the curb on that street was left out of the original bid. But the curb is in rough shape, and after going out there and looking at it, I asked Larry Flutie to give us a cost estimate of what cost we would incur to replace that curb. It's a little different because the street was already resurfaced in 2022. So it's going to involve somewhat of a change order because the valley curb will need to be carefully cut and removed and repoured back into place. So I'm going to pass it to city contract engineer Larry Flutie, and he's going to give us a presentation of where we're at thus far in the project.
Hello, Mr. Flutie.
Good evening, Larry Flutie, Gemini Engineering. I'll begin. Where we're at, contractors made it from 23rd 24th up in the north end of the project, and he's working south there, and then, of course, jumping down to Cedar and the streets along here.
Mr. Fleet, can I talk you into pulling the microphone a little closer to you?
Okay, there we go. How's that? So now I can hear me. The anyway, the work for the project is taking out the existing curb and milling the existing pavement, the 1 inch, the existing 1 inch, and then replacing it with 1.5 inches of asphalt and replacing the curb. And the curb, that the direction that we have given the contractor is the curb is to be constructed with a continuous fall, so that when it's laid and done, it'll have a continuous flow, no puddling or any low spots, things like that. The transitions into the driveways, they'll be smooth, and then at the ends, at Gulf and Bayshore, they have to, make sure that we meet and match the existing pavement. The difficulties that sometimes we have with that need of meeting the existing road at Gulf and down at Bayshore, and the road being so flat, the difficulty is giving enough drop to lay in the curb and lay in the asphalt. And I think up in the screen, let me get to the next. As you can see here, some of the issues that we have, particularly on the photo on the right-hand side, that's 23rd down at 23rd and Gulf, where the existing walk ramp meets the road. So it's an area that's ponding in itself, and that's what we're having to tie into. Another issue coming up is on 19th, that's the photo on the left, and replacing the existing wooden curb and trying to get in a curb and gutter in on that. So that's going to take something. You can also see that the existing driveways are at the gutter elevation. So we're going to have to really consider what we can do then to make this project work. I'll go ahead and move on to 22nd. 22nd Street. We're saw cutting the curb and leaving along the pavement that was just put on there. And we'll do that, and this represents the limits of the work. And so with that, we created our quantities for that. And based upon our estimate for the work on 22nd, we estimated that with the cutting, the saw cutting, the valley curb replacement, restoration of some of the concrete areas, restoration of driveways, and then any miscellaneous work as far as any sprinkler or utilities. We estimate that project to be $593. Any questions so far on that?
Any questions, council?
Yeah, I do.
Sure.
On the 19th Street, where you said there's currently the ribbon
Yeah,
gutters in there. I really feel like, and I'm sure everybody would agree, our real objective there is just to make sure whatever we have there is in fact moving the water to where we want it to be moved
yeah,
to get into a drainage system. So I live on 20th, so I drive by there all the time. I know we had a pretty decent rain last night. So I went by there this morning, and there's zero standing water on those quote ribbon gutters.
Okay,
So to me, from my perspective, I don't care if they're a valley gutter or a vertical gutter or a ribbon gutter. The water's moving to a drain somewhere, which is really our ultimate goal.
right.
So I don't know if we necessarily, and I'll defer to you, have to force, Miami gutter, Valley gutter on that street. If in fact, what would be the benefit of trying to transition from that ribbon gutter to a valley gutter? As long as the water currently is moving the way it's
Well,
supposed to.
that's the big plus right there, that the water's moving and then
Right.
it's getting off there. So that great. So it makes it a little bit easier. You know, if we had puddling
Right.
or low areas, it'd be a little bit more difficult. Uh, my initial thoughts of that area is, you know, where we have that flat ribbon curve, if we put in a V, like a 1 inch deep V, it looked like the ribbon curve.
Right.
The edges would match the existing elevation.
Correct.
So the say it's a 1 inch deep V. And with the water already flowing, that should get it to the inlet. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Okay,
So you're increasing the volume.
Yes. Now it helps direct the flow down there, yeah, and increase the volume, more volume, the faster it come off the curb.
and just a point of information, again, I mentioned that I'm on 20th Street, and for
Yeah.
whatever reason, the water flows two directions and it flows well.
Mhm.
So from the most, if you look at the midpoint of the road, with respect to east to west, right at the midpoint, for the most part, the water flows the eastern part of the road, the water flows towards the intercoastal. From
Okay.
the middle of the road towards Gulf Boulevard, it flows to Gulf Boulevard. So it's going in the county's drain, which is fine,
Yeah,
but it moves, it goes. I just want to make sure that the contractor understands that, because I'd hate for them to attempt to make it all flow one direction, which could be more of a challenge. As long as right now, the water's flowing basically from the center position of that road in two different directions, and it works fine.
that's on 20th and it's about halfway.
Right,
Looks
about
like we got
halfway,
it.
right.
You got
I
the
can
high
tell-
point.
I can always tell by the irrigation systems in the morning. So like my neighbor, who lives pretty much in the middle, when his irrigation system runs, all the water runs towards Gulf Boulevard.
Okay,
The next house over, when their irrigation system runs, it runs towards Fay, the intercoastal.
Okay.
And again, it flows good, so it's working.
okay. Marcus, start out with the contractor
Yeah.
and make sure that
Thanks.
we put in something that continues that.
So in this case, in the, about halfway down the street,
Yeah.
it would flow downhill. Both
Yeah.
direct- Okay.
Now I can't remember if the survey picked that up. It may have.
Hope so.
And so, yeah, certainly those, we'll make sure that it flows the way that gravity wants it to go.
So when we're on the 22nd Street, I had a little bit of a conversation with Kyle today. So the median area in the middle, so what was the cost to put in new curbing just around that area? Let's see.
38,000, somewhere in that, that's the vertical curve.
Okay, that's gonna be vertical there, correct, in the median area, right? So what, if it was your money, what do you think, what's the value in changing that out? What we have there is certainly not going to affect anything with regards to drainage. It's just more aesthetics than anything.
Depends on the condition of the vertical curve. Once you start, milling and looking, if it's really got a lot of fractures and cracks in it, then I'll replace it. If it looks good and solid, then we may need to make a decision whether or not to place it or just leave it there.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
Just so I understand what the options are, Am I correct in understanding that we have about a $250,000 increase to remove the just laid curbs and replace them with V curbs? And are you saying that an alternative is to essentially cut out a portion of that curb to make it more like a V? Is that understanding correct?
For 22nd Street, it's, since the pavement's there and it's fairly new and recent. The goal is to, how do you separate the over curb, the curb and gutter, and the vertical curb, which is in the median. And a clean way of separating that and getting that out is the saw cut between the curb and the pavement. And then that allows that curb to be removed and then new curb placed and formed and placed. So that's what we're proposing on 22nd.
And 22nd Street is not new. None of the curbing is new in this area. This was overlooked. It wasn't budgeted
Thank you.
for whenever that street was paved.
But 23rd Street is new. Correct.
Right.
And that wasn't done by machine, that was done by forms, right?
Yeah.
So question at hand is, when they laid those forms and graded it out, leveled it out, who's at fault, us or the contractor? Because if it was done by, the machines they have today to lay valley curve, they're gonna correct themselves because it's all GPS. But when you're doing it by stick and mortar, you're using a crude 3 foot, 6 foot level. Which ends up with results that we're having. So my only, look, I want this done right, and I have neighbors that had this done years ago and they had problems. And they still have water laying in the street as of yesterday, last night. So I just want it done right, but I think there's other people should get some reconsideration too in this.
I'm sorry, when you said there's water in the street or in the
On the valley
gutters?
curve, the valley curve.
In the-
They get it just during regular sprinklers,
Right.
you know,
right.
and it lays in a particular house, and Lynn said he was gonna correct it, but after they brought this up at the last council meeting, I was looking at this, and he's always complaining because you get mosquitoes and everything.
Right.
A comment about that, if I may. I had the same question in terms of the fact that we know it's flat here. And so what about the new curbs that have been done? And if they did not properly account for the need for the slope, whose accountability is that? And I asked our city attorney to take a look at that question.
Well, I would say it goes back onto the contractor if he's not, it goes back to the engineer. No fault in yours, but they're not following the plan. I mean, you have to lift it and get the drainage, like we're talking about now with extra asphalt. Got it, but why would you, my whole question is, why would you lay something out that's not going to work?
Agreed.
Kyle, whenever some of these streets were done, was it pretty much a rip out the damaged, cracked, problem areas that were aesthetically ugly? And they were having problems with water flowing because there were cracks all in them. But whenever they put them back, did they put them back to the same way that they were originally designed? Is that how some of these areas continue to have problems?
Well, what the existing, just in every stormwater project we've done, yeah, it's got sunken curbs, got broken curb. But when they remove that curb, the idea is you got your high point, you got your low point, and to make it as consistent as possible throughout. Now, a lot of our streets, the streets themselves vary, where they go down, flatten out, sometimes even go up. Each side of the crown is different. But as you can see with every valley curve we've installed with different contractors and resurfaced streets, there's no perfect situation where every curve just flowed perfectly. There's a lot of elements that I was hoping Larry could cover these and kind of show, and the contractor too can speak to it, that when they're out there, there's a lot of adjustments that need to be made. And they're forming up these entire streets, measuring it out with string line. I know they have the curb machines now, but I don't know with all the variables if this curb machine could do a better job.
You know, when they did roll that at Belle Isle and everything like that, and they were doing it all by hand, and I'm thinking like, my God, and it takes so damn long. I mean, you can lay a lot of footage in one day with a big valley curb machine. I call it Miami curb machine. I don't know why they didn't do it. They probably just didn't have access to it, but
Yeah, to date, no contractor has used the curb machine that's bid on our project.
Other questions?
This particular sheet that shows the profile view of 23rd Street, is that the finished profile view, or was this the profile view that was given to the contractor as to how you wanted it laid?
This is the existing profile view, and we're
And-
project's not changing the center line profile
Right.
of that. And I believe what I wanted to show you, I mean, some of the challenges that the contractors and us have had on the project is that it's so flat. And particularly on 23rd, some of the numbers here on that profile, you'll see on the up end, up around Gulf Boulevard, the elevations around, ground elevations around 5.8.
Mhm.
Down at Bayshore, it's 4.58.
Right.
That gives us a 0.0022 foot per foot slope. That's about 0.268 inches a foot, or it's 2.6 inches every 100 feet. It's very flat.
Right.
So it's a difficult project just because of that.
And where was this taken? Like at the crown of the road, the middle of the road?
That is along the crown of the road.
Okay.
So these are our challenges. When we say, all right, we lift up one end to make sure we have a bigger slope. We can only lift that so far because we're constrained by Gulf Boulevard and Bayshore.
Mhm.
And so with those as our beginning and ending point, really puts us at a constraint of how much slope we can put into that.
How was it draining before, Kyle? Do you recall, were there ever any issues on that particular road? Rain events?
We have video footage before shot of those curbs. You can see stains on the concrete where water is sat. It was a dry day when they videoed it. I don't recall specifically that street
Okay.
where I could speak.
Weren't there also some drainage issues with the check valve and, in the pipe itself? Didn't we have some issues back then?
We've had some backup on Bayshore. That this eventually flows to. But as far as, what, I don't have the actual profile except for the existing survey and the video, to really be able to look at what it was prior.
So the 23rd Street issue that we have today, so the estimate is approximately $63,000 to do what needs to be done. And if that's done, you're fairly confident that the water is going to go where we want it to go?
Yes.
Okay.
how thick is the valley curb The bottom.
Again. Roughly 6 inches.
Just- Any way you can reduce that to like. Dig it down to about. So it runs, so instead of having 6 inches at the end, you're only around 4, which is gonna give you a better runoff, but you're digging down.
The things to be careful about, say we can get a deeper V with using this thing.
Pile.
Yeah, we're still limited to that goes into an inlet, that elevation
That's what I'm saying.
and that, so we still got that constraint.
So item number 3 there is really the biggest cost, $35,000. And that's for the driveway paver restoration? How many driveways is that for? I mean, that just seems like a lot. A whole lot.
Well, I didn't bring my count on the number of driveways. Let me see if I,
So are there multiple?
see if I have, but there's multiple.
It's half pavers, half concrete when I was doing the numbers.
Okay,
I'm looking at an aerial.
and when we do that, we're just, I'm assuming we're removing the existing pavers and then putting them back.
Let's see, my count here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 paver driveways.
On that
So
street.
some of them are round. But it looks like as far as
I don't have
actual
two
drive,
driveways.
about half, about 5 of 10. So about half. The other 5 are concrete.
Yeah, it's almost half and half on 23rd.
But that's effectively all labor, right? We're not buying any additional materials to do that.
Yeah,
Unless
yeah,
the
concrete
bricks
or
are broken.
Paver reset.
Okay, so if we break it or if they were already broken? We're talking about the pavers that are in the driveway of the homeowners.
Well, if they're already broken and they crumble when they take them out, then they'll have to give a new
Have to buy new
paver.
ones, okay.
Yeah.
But
it'll
not
be-
100%.
it'll be minimum. Yeah.
Okay,
They break a lot.
and matching them, I think would be a challenge.
It-
Some
all
homes-
that, States
Right.
Sky.
Now, the cost that we have in for the pavers. It's for new pavers. So if we use the existing, we end up using a lot of the existing,
Uh-huh,
then we save some money on that.
okay. So would you be comfortable saying that $63,000 is a conservative estimate?
Yeah.
Any other questions right now? No? Thank you, Mr. Flutie. I'm going to take comments from the citizens. And then whenever we if a motion is made and we get into debate, we'll call you back up, all right?
So you like me,
Just have a seat. It'll be fine. Would any citizens like to comment? Yes, sir. Anyone except for, unless you live on 22nd, you're not allowed to come up. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, come on up, sir. And please step up to the podium and give us your name and address. That's fine, as long as I can, as long as he has a mic.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Nikolai Novoselis and I'm the corner property, southeast corner, Grove and 23rd Street. Right now on the screen, you see what we had before, the V-shaped curve, and the water was flowing. Kyle?
Roll of mouse.
You might as well just stay over and
This is the existing one, no V-shaped curve. The from the beginning of the driveway towards Grove, it's a negative pitch, 1.5 inch. Water stays there by the walkway. This is the last night rain. Some people are trying to jump and they land in the water. That's southeast corner of Grove and 23. That's what we had. V-shaped curb, water flowing down all the way. The curb was broken in many places, and it was building up the dirt. So it's an old curb. This is the difference right there, where the curb, the new work starts on Grove and 23 going down towards Bayshore. So this is the beginning, the negative pitch. That's what you see the difference. Here it is, the new curb and the existing one, Grove and 23. This is the end Bayshore and 23. The first 12 feet of the curb has approximately 2.5 inch of pitch, 12 feet.
This is not a Q&A. Mr. Banker,
Right.
it's not a Q&A.
You notice here a shim underneath.
There you go, from here. So the engineer said approximately on every 100 feet, we have 2.5 inch of pitch to use. But here on 12 feet only, they use 2.5 inch. As the beginning, Bayshore and 23. This is how much higher the outside edge of the curb is towards the asphalt. It's about 2.5 inch from what it was, and it's consistent the bottom of the street to the top of the street. That's the bottom, 2.5 inch. That's the top of the street by me. So obviously it was by design. So this is in red. You see the existing curb that was taken out, and in black on top you see the existing one. So you see that the V-shaped curb is gone. It's replaced with a flat one, which is 2.5 inch higher by the street level of the asphalt, and technically 5.5 inch we lost of the curb, the V-shaped curb, right by the middle where the water flows. Here is the diagram that I brought you the last time, the negative pitch. No pitch in front of the driveway, and after that the pitch starts. So with all this work proposed, it's going to do nothing unless the negative pitch is removed, which means redo the whole curve. All these thousands of dollars will do what? Nothing new. That's what we had last night.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Renee, did you get this gentleman's name and address? Okay, thank you. I'm sure that we'll be discussing this more later in the meeting. Yes, sir.
Hi,
Please,
I'm
are you
Murphy.
presenting also?
Yes, I am,
Okay,
but I'm going to start with everything that Nick said.
okay. And what is your name and address, sir?
Pat Murphy, I'm at 102 23rd Street. Can you guys hear me? Well, my wife tells me I generally don't need one of these, but so I wanted to question, Mr. Flutie, was that survey that you used, was there a survey done?
Sorry, sir, and the citizen comments, you don't inquire our guests. You
Okay.
have to address the council. on
My
that.
first question, I guess, is, was there a survey done, and if so, when? The reason I asked that question is because today there was a representative from Pinellas, not sure how he got there, but that was looking at the street as well. His conclusion was that there's plenty of pitch from the street. He said it was 6 feet at Gulf Boulevard, and then 4 feet down at Bayshore, and then 3 at the exit to the intercoastal. Now, those round numbers do beg the question of a little bit of rounding there, right? But it would be good to compare when the respective surveys were done. The gentleman from Pinellas did not know the date of his. But he felt pretty strongly that absolutely the way this was put in is not gonna work. And it's probably never gonna work, and you need to redo it and build a pitch into it because you do have the elevation differential to make it work. The other conclusion he had was that apparently there was some work that took place toward Gulf Boulevard, that should be under the cognizance of Pinellas. And they were concerned, because he agreed with Nick's point on the pitch there, that it's actually pushing water back out to Gulf Boulevard, which is a problem for them that they prefer not to have. So, again, I think this goes back to survey a little bit to understand what we're looking at in reality there. And then, of course, addressing the issue of having that flat valley curve, because it's completely negating the benefit of the previous curve that we had. I've been there for 4 years, and honestly, I never saw any issues with any significant pooling of water. I know it was a little bit stained to Kyle's point. But in general, it was very workable. We didn't have any large areas of standing water.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Yes, sir. Please come up, give us your name and address.
John Hensley, 322nd. 22nd Street. Since we purchased that house back in 2015, those curbs in front of our property have been damaged forever and ever, okay? And I know watching water flow, it flows from Gulf to Bayshore. There's no crown going both ways. The other issue is, will residents get notice prior to, if this is approved, the contractor beginning any work? I have irrigation lines within that 6 inches behind the curb. And probably within 6 inches, I have a fiber optic cable. And if that gets cut, I have no television, I have no internet, no computer. I need to know beforehand. So they cut it, they're gonna have to pay to fix it. All I'm asking is the courtesy of them heads up so that I can locate it for them before they start poking around with their equipment.
Thank you, Mr. Hansick. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Would any other citizens like to comment? Okay, before we go to the council for discussion, I'm going to need a motion to move forward with this proposal.
Motion.
Motion made by Frank Banker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Roberts. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, that's not actually the way that goes. Sorry about that. We did, congratulations. No. Let's go to debate. Mr. Banker, do you have the floor?
Hopefully, I appreciate all the citizens' comments. Hopefully, before anybody does any digging, they call, they have the lines located, okay, and they come out with the sniffers or locators and they'll mark it with the flags. But my street, yes, they didn't rip up anybody's fiber optic. They did rip up a lot of water or sprinkler lines, okay? But they repaired them as they ripped them up. So that's not an issue. My biggest issue is you have pictures of the old curb, which shows a great pitch in it. So the design build plan, did the design build plan have a valley curve in it, or did it have a flat curve? Because if we screwed up, then we should pay and get it repaired. But if the contractor put in the wrong curve, he should dig it out.
Yeah, well,
You know what I'm saying?
I will say it definitely looks different. It looks higher.
Well, the whole radius isn't there. I mean, and that, what I'm saying is, I understand that you have minimal to work with, but was a design build with the valley in there, or was it not? If it was flat, we screwed up. We need to pay. But
Well, before I go to other council members, what's your opinion on that particular street on 23rd?
I've let Larry speak on that. I mean, the idea was that we have a valley in the curb. We knew going forward that it wasn't gonna be to spec. But I'd let him comment on the surveys, what time they're being done and what he
Okay.
designed.
Mr. Flutie, would you like to come back up to the podium, please, sir? Would you like to address the concerns on 23rd?
Yes, the constraints that we had on trying to make sure that the flow line from Gulf makes it down to Bay Shore. And so that brought up the flow line to get enough fall to do that. It brought it up a little higher. And in that case, see, I think I got a photo. Well, I can't get to it, but it's the inverted or the flowway is not there as it should be. But I believe that in talking with the construction folks, that it's because of bringing that up to get enough flow. We kind of got that wedge. And to get flow in the curb, that's when the idea is brought up, maybe bringing in a little extra asphalt to keep it within that curb. Then that will get it down, because if it gets down, I believe it's around maybe 50 feet down, you got the curb and gutter, which is that inverted.
You know, am I looking at the corner of Bay Shore and 23rd in this photo?
Yes,
Golf, I think.
Which
Golf, golf and
It's Gulf. Okay, it's Gulf.
let me get to I've got that, I've just got to learn how to get that on this computer.
Well, you may need to assist.
Oh, I sound his. Actually, I already want to look at photos.
I'll just put it on the screen. So anything.
Okay. There we go. Let's let me get down to. Okay. I want to find some photos of that. Okay. This is another view of that photo of 23rd and Gulf.
Okay, and so the curb was raised up to get better flow
Yes,
towards Bay Shore,
right.
correct? And now you're thinking that because the asphalt is lower than the curb, it's trapping it?
If I can ask the contractor to come up, he can kind of explain the details that with the flow line coming around and the edge of the driveway and the asphalt kind of created, instead of having a deeper V to keep that going, that V got a little bit more shallow. Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
I can speak a little bit to this whole situation, if you don't mind.
Your name, sir?
Anthony, Harbor Contracting. I'm the president. And I have my foreman Levi, who's on site every day, who's been working through this. Just a couple issues, or just want to bring some concerns or things up to date for you guys. When we were given the project and bid the project, the only constraint on the project is a note here that says curbing to be laid out to where no water does not puddle and to prevent ponding. There's no grade stakes are not given to us. No grade elevations are given to us. The only thing that's given to us is if the road has a high point in the middle or if the road goes at a consistent flow from one end to the other. So in this situation on 23rd Street, it flows from Gulf Boulevard to Bay Shore. Now you have two constraints. You have the flow line constraint that has to stay completely the same because you're tying into 2 points on Gulf Boulevard and Bayshore. And you have the front board, which has to stay pretty much the same because you're tying into the asphalt, because the front board is what gives you the asphalt, which has to tie into that. The curb that we took out that's not a valley. That curb went flat and then up like that. Kind of like a slight like this.
Right.
What you're trying for us to do is to put in a valley it's not possible. What really is what you're kind of looking for is more like a road reconstruction project where you go back on all the aprons, you take them all out, you rechange the road profile and everything. So what we're doing here is we're trying to match existing grades, trying to get the flow lines to work. So when we put the front board in and we put the flow line in and they're shaping it with the level to get the flow line to go, as you get from Bayshore, you'll have a deeper V. And then as you get to Gulf, the V will slowly disappear. As you pointed out on the one street that had like the header curve.
Right.
The reason there's no water ponding there is because they took the one point and the other point and they drew a straight line and it flows down the straight line.
Right.
And there's no valley in there. So what we're proposing to do in these situations is to put the asphalt an inch and like a half an inch lip in front of the curb to kind of give it like a pseudo V almost, where it'll keep it in the curb.
Sort of enhancing the.
Exactly. We're trying not to go back into the aprons because then if you have to raise the backboard and raise the front board, then on some of the houses, you'll have backflow because the houses don't sit at a higher elevation. So you don't want us going back into the aprons and reconstructing everybody's aprons and everything. So, we're doing the best we can. As to your note on a curb machines are only really used on new construction projects, long parking lots, because the curb machine has to sit at the same elevation as the new curb. Well, the road's up here and the new curb point's down here. So you can't use a curb machine. It's only used on we only use it on new
Your
roads.
picture there,
Yeah.
the first cone
Yes,
is where the milling started to
Yes.
take off, right?
yeah, so from that cone right there,
The first
the
one
water,
that we see,
the
right?
first cone we see closest to us.
Right.
It goes towards Bayshore.
Okay,
So that water, there's a straight line that goes from there to Bayshore.
okay, so that's where the milling started to put the blacktop down, right? The first cone?
Yes, that's where well,
Why is the curb reconstructed all the way back to the first cone,
well, the plans that we were given to bid actually shows, if you go to the limits of the curb, actually shows it to go into the Pinellas County areas, which we're not doing.
Here's my problem.
Yes, sir.
with this, when
Yeah.
you're doing it by hand.
Yeah.
If you offset, because you have such a low pitch to play with, if you offset that first cone just a little bit, half an inch. And I don't know why you would start there, okay? And then you came down, you lost a lot of your drainage already.
Yeah, so what we did on this one, we always start at the low point.
Mhm.
So we start at the low point and we give it almost level, barely the bubble on the level, on a 4-foot level is almost not even touching the line on this side to get the water to go. It's 0.0023% fall from one end. That's percent. So it's like 0.0, like Larry said all the numbers for me. I don't need to repeat them. Yeah, it's pointless to repeat them, but. So from the cone that's closest to us, coming towards us, the water goes that way. We had to tie into Pinellas County's existing ramp that was right there. That's why there was a huge fall difference in that 12 feet. It's because we started at the low end and we came up with the level pretty much flat as you go. As we're going up on the road, the curve, the V starts to it's going bye-bye. It's turning into a header curve like what he saw on that other road. And it goes bye-bye. And we're already 2.5 inches above the road. Your asphalt quantity on that road is gonna be 3 times what it should be.
Okay, so the next question on my thing is after you stick build it, okay,
Mhm.
with your, okay?
Yep.
You had to do a level again before you poured the concrete, didn't you?
We use the level as we're pouring the concrete, yes. As we're pouring it,
But
yes.
what I'm saying is, once you stick build it, okay?
Yes.
You had to have some kind of an idea, this isn't gonna drain. I mean,
It is
no one's gonna pour concrete and say, hopefully this works. I mean,
No,
I've been in the construction
Yeah, I
business all my life.
yes, sir.
okay, and-
I understand.
And we don't do things that way.
Yeah, well, it is gonna drain. It's not gonna look like a profile of a valley curb with a valley gutter. His header curb drains. It drains. It
I'm not
follows.
talking about his header curve. I'm talking about 23rd.
I understand, but the problem is,
Set up with kind of drain.
the problem is, the homeowner is saying that it looks too much like the header curb. So we are talking about the profile of the curb. That's the main issue here is no one likes the look of the curb, saying that there's no V in it.
No, I don't think the main issue is they're getting wood in their driveway and it's not draining, right? And you're getting every type of bug and.
Water stays.
Yeah.
That whole corner.
Yeah.
That whole corner right there holds water, will always hold water. This project won't stop that from happening. It's always gonna hold water. There's nowhere, if you look at the grade shots here, there's nowhere for that water to go on that intersection.
Well, then it shouldn't be doing anything.
It's going down.
So, but the pictures you showed us before, and we're not allowed to cross talk to you guys, but I didn't see any water in the old pictures. And I'm not there. I don't go down to the north end a lot, but I never saw after a heavy rainstorm, 23rd Street, I never heard of any flooding down there. We have the flooding problems. Okay?
Yeah.
But I don't want flooding in our area either, but
The problem, his existing curb was not, it's not a valley curb, no, it's not any curb. There's no word there. It's the existing curb. It doesn't follow any profile. What we're trying to do is actually put a correct profile and a V, try to mimic a valley gutter.
I
Is
understand
what we're trying to
when
do.
you're
yeah.
marking out your plywood, okay, you're gonna say, this is the level, okay, that we have to keep at to make it flow.
Yes,
And
but the issue is,
you didn't do that. It-
what the issue is if we did that and which we do, we plot it, we know where the flow line is, it's consistent to one and the other. Then our front board would be 4 or 5 inches above the existing asphalt.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So then we should have said, stop. We can't do this job. Rather than do the job and say, look what we did. We did it wrong. And that's what I'm not grasping in my head.
I think what you're saying is, well, if it's not gonna fix stopping the water, then why do it at all?
Thank you.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
But I don't think everybody 100% agrees with that. I think that there is a sense of aesthetics that are involved also. And you're going around, you're coming right up there and then you just you stop.
Just
right
tie
there.
into whatever's there and that's it.
Entrance of the
Yeah.
street and call it a day. Do I think that there's more problems now? Well, right now, probably so, but possibly, what's your level of confidence on raising the asphalt level? And how long realistically do you expect that to last?
You mean raising the like adding more thickness to the asphalt? That's done all the time. I mean, Indian Rocks is milling 8 inches thick and putting 8 inches thick of asphalt. That's not an issue at all.
And so is
Yeah,
that going
It's just
to,
a cost thing too, you know, we're trying to match the existing asphalt because we're only milling 1 inch and putting back 1.5 inches. On 23rd, we're gonna use, it's gonna be 4 inches thick in some spots, which is gonna go overage on your asphalt numbers. So,
and so what's your level of confidence that it's gonna help?
the water is consistently running from one end to the other. That's what the notes in the plan say. That's what the spec says. That's what we're doing. It's consistently running from one point to the other. We shot shots of on 23rd. I shot every 210 feet and we had almost exactly the same fall every 210 feet. And then we get in front of at Gulf Boulevard and we have to dive down and tie into the existing. That's why there's in that 12 feet, that's why there's 2 inches of fall. Because we have to match the existing at Gulf. There's nothing we can do about it. It's a moot point. I mean, so you can't use that 2.5 inches to tell you that you can get fall from there to Bay Shore. That's not how it works. So. And I could see on all the other, like, just driving around, look at, it seems like other contractors might have had the same issue that we were having it's just, there's literally no fall here, nothing. All Indian Rocks, we're happy in North Reddington, it's the same. it's all the same, you know? So, and we're trying to get the profile to match a valley gutter with the constraints that we're given. Matching the existing asphalt, matching the driveway aprons, and keeping a consistent flow line. So,
Okay, all right. Does anyone else have questions?
yeah.
I understand completely what you're saying. I also
sir.
just wanted to clarify something when Mr. Banker mentioned that a design build, we did not use a design build. Right? A design build is one firm.
Yeah.
We use a design.
Yeah.
Bid, build, delivery method.
Right.
Two different firms, design build, you have one firm, they're responsible for the
Yes, sir.
design.
No,
And the
not
construction.
necessarily.
Oh, yes,
No,
necessarily.
no, not necessarily.
I have my general contractor's
Right,
license.
one at a time.
Class A, and I'm pretty sure I'm confident of that.
Well, I'm telling you right now, not necessarily, because they bring in subs all the time, and you know that.
Subs are brought in by,
The general contractor.
This is pointless.
we did not use a design build. Ask these gentlemen, did we use a
The
design?
problem,
build?
the problem is,
No, this is not design build.
the problem is you had plans. Okay, and before you do a construction project, you should say, this is gonna work or it's not gonna work. He's showing me the old plan right there,
Mhm.
and it looks like they tried to do something and it didn't work.
I'm just trying to tell you, we didn't use a design build.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's $65,000.
It matters. Had we used a design build, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
It doesn't
Gentlemen,
matter.
Hey,
I'm
seriously,
sorry, go ahead.
one at a time,
Go ahead.
all right? Mr. Banker, you have the floor.
What does it matter what it's called? Because it's costing the city $65,000 for something that didn't work, that the contractor thought it would work.
It matters because had we used a design build, there would be one firm and we wouldn't be sitting here having an engineer talking about whose fault is it, the engineers or the contractors? That's what matters.
Okay, whose fault is it?
I'm not gonna say whose fault it is.
Huh.
I just answered your question.
The
It doesn't
bottom
matter.
line is, the taxpayers of the city are gonna pick up the bill.
You know, based upon everything that I've heard, I think that it's somebody else's fault from years ago. Whoever designed the city, the intersections, the way that our streets entered into Gulf Boulevard, I mean, it's not relevant.
I mean, Gulf Boulevard could have raised their, I'm sure they did over time when they were putting different layers. So Gulf Boulevard got higher. So now everything, there's gonna be a point there where we can't make it go that direction anymore.
We don't know that.
Anyway, we are where we are with this. So what do we want to do?
The bottom line is, did they have water in the street before they did this job?
No.
Thank you. Okay, do you have water in the street now? Oh, thank you. Okay, so our plan or that contractor did not perform the job the way it was supposed to be done. Call it whatever you want. I call it a shit job. I don't know if that's in your engineering school or not, but that's what happened.
I do in fact have an engineering degree though.
I don't care what you have, all right? I don't care if it's a pastry sheet. It didn't work.
They're not finished.
Point of order, both of you. We've got a problem. We need to get it resolved. That's what we're here for.
Who's paying
And,
for it?
and getting in a pissing match over who's right and who's wrong is not the way to handle this. So I agree that, yep, we have water now where we didn't before. Mr. Reefer, can you confirm that?
I can say that there was always water being held at the sidewalk and that part of the road. We might have made it worse slightly. I tried to come back and fix it. This has only been poured once. They did realize that there was the flow was going in the wrong way from Mr. Nick's driveway to the Gulf Boulevard.
Is
So
the
that has
plan,
been
is the
corrected.
plan to pave that street?
So the plan right now, what we're discussing is that, if we're gonna add material to achieve more of a flow line in the center, are we gonna do as is and accomplish water flowing towards Bay Shore by means that the contractor is recommending? But either way, there is a negative flow at the west end of 23rd that needs to be corrected. We've known about that since the first time we met out there. When that's something we can correct, so it's not making that county depression any worse. But until the county does something with their road, there's always gonna be water at the very top.
Yeah.
Gulf Boulevard and 23rd.
Comments, questions?
I think this was,
Someone could restate what the motion is that's on the table.
The motion is to approve this project plan.
And that, but there's several pieces.
Mhm.
What, if someone could restate what the project plan actually is?
So currently we're discussing 23rd Street. So we need to come up with what we're gonna do if we're gonna keep the unorthodox curb as is, correct the area that we have a negative flow towards Gulf Boulevard. But use the half-inch reveal as the contractor is discussing, where we know that the water, even though the curb looks not like a typical V-shaped curve, the water is still flowing to the west to Bay Shore. I mean, to the east. Or what Mr. Flutie was recommending is that we could add material to try to achieve more of a center flow line as opposed to it being up against the asphalt. Either way, you know, we don't see it improving very much. I think that's the argument. But what we do want is a consistent flow to go to Bay Shore. And I believe, yes, you're correct. There's the curb may have drained better in some areas, but overall that curb was not in great shape. There was a lot of cracking, there was depression. And this is part of the project is the restoration of the curb and the resurfacing. So to do so, we're gonna have to have some kind of curb where the water flows and then we restore the pavement.
Right, well, we can't have a motion in the alternative, so
So I would,
saying to go with the contractor's proposal and not with the engineer's alternative.
I'd like to hear Mr. Flutie's recommendation for 23rd. And what it'll take.
Okay. As we're looking here, I just got a thought, at the corner where the 30 and the contractor mentioned that at the intersection there, 23rd and Gulf, there's a stormwater pipe underneath there. There's two inlets on Gulf that connects, and that pipe would go underneath there. There is a possibility, I don't know, you just have to approach Pinellas County, but maybe an inlet can be put in that area to capture water. And that would really solve any water backflowing off on the Gulf and help with the situation going down the Bay Shore.
And that's the best thing that I've heard all night. So what I would like to do is entertain a motion to amend this proposal where we either table it or we amend it and we negotiate 23rd at a later date.
I make a motion to table this so we can see if we could put spot drains or another type of drain in there without ripping this all up.
Do I have a second?
Could you explain that one more time?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what you could, so if you look at the picture there, you can kind of see it, around that corner, there's an inlet.
Where that second cone.
Yeah, around that
Right.
corner, there's an inlet on that
Gulf
side.
Boulevard.
Yeah,
Right,
and then there's an inlet on the other side
Right.
of 23rd. What we could do is put a drainage inlet on that corner, slope from at the corner house and at the corner of Gulf Boulevard, slope both sides to the drainage inlet and tie it in to the city stormwater system with like a doghouse manhole and just have a manhole lid in the middle of you'd have a manhole lid instead of it being an inlet. But because you're tying in a stormwater system to an existing, you need to have some sort of structure there. So
Right.
you'd have to set two structures. You'd have to set the inlet structure right here at the corner. And then you'd have to set another a doghouse structure at the connection point between your system and the county system.
Real quick, what would that cost, the doghouse?
I can't put a number on that. I mean, it's,
Apologize.
you got a well point, you got to try, it just depends on how deep the pipe is, how big, there's too many factors for me to put a number on anything, really. It's
Do you think
kind of
it'd be cheaper?
My opinion was the water was always there, no matter what's being said right now, no matter everyone, it was always sitting there. There was always water sitting there. There will always be water sitting there. It is not, it's a county right away. It's an unfortunate situation that the homeowner's in. It got, you know, I wouldn't want my house, I would want the same thing. So it's unfortunate, but it's just, it's the situation we're dealing with at that corner. And the only way to 100% remedy it was to put a drainage inlet in there. That'd be the only way. But then you have to get with the county. They have to go over the plans. They have to design it too. They right. I mean, you're talking maybe a year before we can actually get out there and put the drainage inlet in and do that work. But as far as the drainage project we're currently on, it was constructed to have positive flow from his right in front of his house all the way to Bay Shore, which I confirmed on our on-site meeting, it does. And unfortunately, it's just an unfortunate situation at that end. It's always held right. There's a dip right there. You can see, I mean, that's just my opinion on it. So.
Yes, sir.
So are we saying that some of our water on 23rd Street would be going into the county system? Is that why you mentioned we'd have to get with the county?
Yeah, because you're tying into the county system, their stormwater system there, and we just did a stormwater project in Indian Rocks Beach. No matter what you do, even if you touch their system, you have to get a right-of-way permit. Their engineer has to look at it. They have to look at Larry's design. They have to sign off on it. It turns into this whole,
Right.
yeah, this whole thing, you know, which it'd be nice if we could fix the issue by just curb and moving curb and stuff like that. But it's not possible at that corner. It's just not gonna happen. So.
I'd recommend, obviously, if we have another solution, I mean, the water is gonna move from what you referenced earlier. It may not move at the rate
Exactly.
that we would love it to do, but as long as there's some grade, I mean, it's always going to go to the path of least resistance.
Exactly. If
So
the water's ponding for 48 hours, 72 hours, then yeah, it could be more of a finishing issue.
Right.
But if the water's is disappearing within 24, 20, you know, then it's moving, it's going.
Except,
All valley curbs hold water for a certain period of time,
What's the distance? How many feet is it from his house?
550,
550 feet.
and it has a 0.0023 fall. That's in tenths or whatever, thousandths. So there's nothing, there's no fall. So again, what the issue is trying to get the valley to consistently go. And then when you get to the end, the valley's almost gone inside the curb. With us being 2.5 inches above the asphalt already. So.
You know, I was just thinking if you put spot drains in there with a false pipe.
Yeah, ideally you, in the middle of the road, you would put in
the valley curve, if you put spot drains.
oh, like a channel drain.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then, yeah, I mean, you could do that, but not too crazy about that. I don't, yeah. But.
Well, I guess my motion to table would silence any more discussion under Roberts, so.
It doesn't sound like it did.
I'll make a motion again to table.
23rd.
Yeah, 23rd Street. For now.
And move ahead with 22nd. I'll second that.
All in favor to table?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's tabled. Please come back to us with more information.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time that you've been here tonight, and I hope we can get this resolved quickly.
so we tabled the 23rd Street or the whole?
Just the 23rd.
Now, this is the most convoluted motion to table because it's not really wasn't really the right way to handle it, but would someone like to make a motion to approve 22nd Street?
Make a motion to approve 22nd Street.
I have a second.
Second.
Mr. Banker, do you have the floor?
Plans are in front of us. I believe you should go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to bring up one point, if just that vertical curb in the median, cutting it out and replacing it. Gotta look back at the numbers here. It's pretty significant and it's more of an aesthetic element of the project, and we have a lot of trucks that are constantly driving over it, so
How cracked and broken is it?
um. It's, I've never looked at it where it was just an eyesore or a danger or hazard. There might be some chips. We have chips in most cul-de-sacs on the D curb. It just did not stand out to me as something that was necessary, and you know, it's a significant cost. As far as vertical, you got the vertical curb is $38,000, and then the saw cut removal, the vertical curb is another 17. So you're at 55,000. That's a big chunk of it. It's not really a functional aspect.
17, the saw cut vertical curb, where's that at?
That is item 5.
See the item, tell me exactly what that is. That's where you're taking out the
That's
curb
you're
and then you're
carefully
replacing it.
cutting.
Would someone like to make a motion to amend this proposal to where we drop the median completely?
You mean the median curbing?
Yes,
Because we don't need it.
it doesn't sound like we do.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Would you like to discuss?
As I understand it, the proposal for 22nd Street is presented because it was omitted from the initial bid. And so we haven't provided for this at all.
Correct.
So the plan is to move forward with 22nd Street to incorporate that as part of our contract, but deleting the median because we feel that that's no longer necessary. And for that, I would favor that.
All in favor to amend the proposal where we remove the median curbing or removal and
Let me
replacement?
make one more point that this is the engineer's estimate, so we still would come to an agreement with the contractor. A lot of these quantities they're in the bid, the original bid. The careful saw cutting and forming of, you know, the valley curb inside of repaved surface might be something that he wants to discuss, but as long as we're all on board within the realm of the estimate, we move forward. I just want to point that out.
Okay, so the motion is to amend this proposal. Once again, removing the median curbing and replacement, taking that part out. All in favor? Aye. Okay, now we're back to approving the original motion with the amendment. So that was approving the amendment. Now we have to approve the motion, the original motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye, nay.
You oppose?
Yeah.
Okay. Be it, make a record of it that Mr. Roberts opposes replacing the, or not replacing the median. Okay, is that it? Any other thing else that you would like to discuss? Because we've voted on these,
No, sir.
these proposals. 23rd will be revisited. And I'm hoping we can get this resolved quickly. That being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting and we'll take a 5-minute break.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming in.
Are we live?
Yes.
All right, this is the budget work session for fiscal year 24 and 25. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Present.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Kim Shaw Elliott.
Present.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Reefler.
Here.
Okay, this is a work session, so we only really have one item, and that is to discuss and review fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. I'm assuming that everyone has had a one-on-one conversation with the city manager to discuss the budget. And you already have your concerns or don't. So I'm gonna hand the floor over to Mr. Reefler and take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm gonna just run through some of the things. Yes, we did. Every one of the council members I've met with one-on-one went through carefully the budget. And I just want to bring up some of the main things that we talked about. First covering what we got for our estimated increase in property value for this year. It came back close to June 1st when it was released. It was at 10.41%. So in comparison to the previous year, the actual was 10.43%. And then the year before that was our peak that we've seen recently, which is the 14.10%. So this is the estimated July 1st, we will get the actual. And again, we don't expect it to be more than 1% off. It's fairly close. So right now, our current millage rate, this is a consistent millage rate we've had since 2012, is the 2.0894. And with that percent of property value increase, we're looking to an additional revenue to the city of $165,375. So again, it's a good thing that we're seeing an increase in property value. We don't know how it's going to be in the future years, but it's been good lately. As I go through, one thing I want to point out in our finance department is we had the $35,000 budgeted for the auditing services for this coming year. The audit committee has made a recommendation, which will be at the next council meeting, but that does fall within our planned budget. So if we do end up approving at the council meeting, this firm, the first year will cost us $32,200. So we're within budget on that. The only thing that could change, which we do not expect, is if for some reason we had to do a single audit, that would be an additional cost of $2,300. I don't think we will qualify for a single audit because they recently raised the amount of government funding you have to receive to over $1 million, which is a lot of money for our size budget. So we don't anticipate that. Another thing coming up is our legal contract for city attorney. This past budget year, we had $76,000 budgeted for legal services. A lot of that was for the charter revision that we anticipated. Current retainer is $3,000 per month, which equates to $36,000 per year. The rest of that is budgeted for outside of retainer. The retainer basically covers our regular meetings and regular city business. I have the contract and I can send you guys all copies to review. Just to familiarize yourself with how we're billed and when we go through, negotiating this contract for in the future. But I believe with our current budget, which I dropped out the charter revision piece of it, so I put in 61,000. I believe that's a safe number to keep in there for whatever we end up with as far as contract negotiations. And that should be coming up in April 2025.
I have a question about that. All of these ordinance changes that we are doing, we can't, they're going to be sometime after October. So that's going to put us into this budget year.
Mhm.
How much do you think that we're going to be charged in excess to run those through? Because that's quite a bit.
It is quite a bit. Most of the work I am trying to get completed by our planner, which was Mr. Cerna. And that is a different line item, which was the other professional services that we increased in our budget this year. Randy will have some part in drafting those ordinances. Hopefully they're pretty near completion. And I'd like to get them all written and considered before the end of this budget year, because I did budget that last year.
Good.
So that's my plan. We saw that the law enforcement services, we're looking at a 7% change increase. One idea that came in, and I'm going to contact the chief of police over at the Largo Police Department and see if they'd be interested in at least giving us a proposal for policing services to see how that number comes in.
While you're on that, I brought up about get so much money back from Bel Air Shores, but we don't have we've never been given a time allotment that the sheriff spends over there. And I've been going to a lot of their council meetings. I hear they issue 30 is like the minimum tickets they issue just in the parking lots during the month. Each ticket takes a while to write. I don't know how much we are subsidizing their police staff, is what I'm saying.
I did ask the captain,
Yeah.
Captain Liner, to work with the finance department over there and see if they could give me some kind of calculations to understand how they do it. I don't know if it's solely based on time, but if you did break down the time, it's an hour and 20 minutes a day is equivalent. But there may be other factors. I'm waiting to hear back.
Right, and I don't believe that's anywhere in the ballpark. That I believe it's almost double that.
Okay. So I guess when I get those
Yeah,
numbers back,
thank
I'll share them with the council. Okay,
Let me chime in on the increase. I wrote a nice letter to the gentleman that sent us the bad news about the increases, and I told him that we had a huge increase last year. We're getting a huge increase this year, and it comes to the tune of about 15% over 2 years. Kyle got a call from Captain Liner. And the same evening, I got a call from the sheriff. Galtieri called me, and he informed me that this is not just a Bel Air Beach increase. It's the same increase over the entire county. And it's basically the reason why we got hit last year was because they had to raise pay to stay competitive, to keep from losing officers to Pasco and Hillsborough. But this year it's insurance and then more pay increases. And that's why he's having to do what they're doing. So I thought we were getting picked on. I was pretty mad about it whenever I wrote the letter, but I was actually kind of impressed. Bob called me and but I did at the same time, I spoke with Woody Brown in Largo. And I asked him if he would consider doing services for us. And I said, I can't guarantee that we would actually go through with that, but it would be nice to have a quote so we could actually see if there's even, you know, if they're even in the ballpark as far as the sheriff's department goes and what they're charging us. Or are they undercharging us? Or, you know, I would just like to see what, you know, so maybe.
So how did he respond? If they did that, would they have to hire additional?
I'm sure they would. I'm sure they would.
apparatus?
But, you know, I told him, I said, I see your cars right here all the time,
That's right.
you know, so it's not really that much farther. The only difference is that you wouldn't be coming from three directions. Largo would only be across the bridge and they would be coming in and out. So, but
Aren't their officers paid more?
I don't know if they are or not. I just, I thought it would be a good exercise to see if we could get a quote. If they would even entertain dealing, they may have already heard you know, about us and don't want to
How
deal
about,
with Bel Air Beach.
how about Clearwater since they go into right to San Kitty?
I have not
Yeah.
spoken with Clearwater. I just thought Largo to begin with. And I know that also that there's been some apprehension about us having any business interactions with the city of Clearwater in the past. So I chose Largo to see if they would be interested.
Well, I'm not complaining when I'm not complaining about the increase. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think we have the best deputies in Florida. I've never heard any of our citizens complain about any of them. They're always there for you. You can always see them. I'm just complaining about, I don't think we're getting the fair share when we're sharing the budget or, you know, with the stipend we get back from Bel Air Shores. And I think that should be looked at.
Okay. Please continue.
Okay, so,
Beyond.
oh, sorry, I'm just flipping through, it'd be on page 16. This actually is not in this draft. This came up during, my meeting with member, Roberts. And we, you know, he's interested in, looking at some of the work order software, public works software that you can use, that has a lot of options and a lot of, benefits. And he did some research and he came up with one called iWork, and we demoed it, which was free, but we sat through about an hour, went through the basic package and saw all the options that were available. We included our public works administrator, Aaron, in as well, where we asked a lot of questions, and we were very impressed where the software is today. It all runs off of the web browser. It's a lot different than it used to be when I was over at the city of Oldsmar, and you had to run on your own server. So it also is very impressive because you can tailor it to your city size and everything that you do, so that there's a lot of variables when you create work order forms that you can create the fields specifically for what you use, not anything more. That was never a thing in the past. It was kind of like you just had certain options and they were all on your forms. The same thing with reports, which was impressive. The ability to just create a mass amount of reports depending on what the data in question is. And, you know, after doing the demo, definitely saw a lot of benefits, but we didn't have the price yet. And then later that day, the proposal was sent over and it came back very, very reasonable price. It's set up where you have a startup fee to build the program. They do it in 60 days. Their programmers work directly with you. They would use our maintenance plan as is and start building our database in our fields with that, and then we tweak it as we went. But again, you know, I was very impressed. It has the annual cost for the basic package is $2,200. That's just a yearly cost. And then, an add-on,
That per user?
no, that is for the entire program, no unlimited users. And I don't, my intention would be that every staff member, all 8 of us use this program as kind of like our central work order program, because we're all kind of directly involved, whether it's, intaking the calls or, assigning the work and approval of the work. So we would all have access. And then there's an add-on package, which is a stormwater package that applies to us because that's our main utility. That's a $1,400 a year cost. So the yearly cost, we're looking at $3,600 a year. But again, with the stormwater, we do our required permitting through the state, and we have to track through forms and spreadsheets all this data anyways, and it is part of our regular maintenance. But what we would do is we build our existing GIS that we have of our stormwater system into the database, but we run our inspections, our work orders, our valve checks through this program. Obviously, keeping track of staff time, keeping track of costs of the materials, and also the parts and just the inventory in general of things that we keep on hand, and just tracking the maintenance of our equipment. So it's kind of everything ties into this is my main point, and that as we go, when we're assigning, what the cost per employee is, cost of time, cost of materials, all this will be tracked, which will be very useful, especially when it comes to kind of keeping track of and showing where our time, our productive time is going, so that we can pull this up and kind of see, what these costs are, and furthermore down the road when we're looking at our stormwater system, because we know we're constantly doing repairs on, we're dedicating so much time to it, we'll be able to generate reports that show, where that money is going. So I just think this is the future. A lot of cities have already kind of implemented these type of programs, and I think they're getting to the point where, they're very affordable.
You're currently tracking all of this in spreadsheets.
More or less an email. I mean, a lot of the communication is it's coming in through phone calls. It's going to me, and then I'm funneling it to where it needs to go.
Okay.
A lot of times, unless it's a routine thing, that it would go to Aaron directly, but
But I'm talking about the like asset management,
so
appreciation.
So our asset, so if you're talking about our equipment, that's just a separate spreadsheet. We're keeping track of the miles, the hours, the time, the last maintenance. A lot of times you gotta go pull up the last invoice to get more information. It's not exactly a smooth system, but we are tracking it more or less.
And this software does all that for you.
It builds it all into one.
Okay. Would you say the amount of labor that you're, I won't say wasted, but using to do all of these functions now, is it easily $6,000 or more a year?
Oh, the labor
To track all of
What
this?
you're saving.
I would say yes, because you're gonna benefit from, once we all get used to using the system, they're no longer filling out paper reports. I think the real benefit is when there's a question about specifically how much money we're spending on this or that, and it's gonna be there, and we're gonna be able to pull information on it. So in time, it's gonna become more and more valuable.
Now, you said you got this off, or you were able to talk them down to 6,000. That's probably a first year rate.
So the startup right now is 6, and what I mentioned was, our purchasing procedures, if anything over $5,000 is spent at one time, that we have to get a second quote. And he said, well, what's the threshold for that? Because I may be able to work with you. And I said, it's $5,000. So he said, well, then, if you guys seriously are considering us, then we'll get it below that number for startup.
Now, will we be required to get a quote if he raises the rate next year?
For the annual rate, we're looking at, this is a 3-year contract, so it'll be locked in.
3 year.
3 years. Yes.
That was my
So,
next question.
After that, we'll see where we're at.
How many employees like it?
Well, we talked to them.
Yeah,
Not yet.
okay. Okay.
She's very good with
Yeah.
programs and computers, so I think she'll pick it up quickly. But no, Aaron brought the idea to the staff afterwards and they were excited about it because
Okay.
we did present it as a way. We know that they're working hard and we know that they're doing a lot of different things and we saw it as is the validation to what they're doing. And I
No,
think-
I'm just saying change sometimes is hard to accept, in the world.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah, but if this is something that the employees want,
And Councilmember Roberts, you reviewed it also?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you feel about it?
I think it's great. It was written when Kyle asked me initially, what did he think the ballpark was for the cost? I said, well, I put down like 10,000. And it came in at the number Kyle just referenced, which I thought was pretty attractive. And the fact that the guy's willing to get it under 5 so that we can, I think he even mentioned to you, Kyle, that they would actually start it now if we wanted to. And so get it in 60 days, it'll be fully operational, even though our budget wouldn't be until October 1. And he would delay payment until then.
Yes,
So that
he
we could.
bill us later, so we could just budget.
That's pretty cool.
Just buy my software.
And it was, I told Kyle, I said, a lot of, when you see like, how many users do they have? And I think they have like 2,500
A lot.
across the country. So they have an annual users meeting, which from my experience, that's invaluable because you go to that annual event, have an opportunity to ask people questions that have been through some of the learning curve and share information with them and say, we're thinking about doing this. And they go, oh, don't do that. We tried that. It didn't work well, or whatever the case may be. And there's some local, I think it was Port Richey has it. So I think it's a good fit.
I don't want to go down a huge rabbit hole or about the software and
Sure.
everything, but I did, where's the data being backed up?
In the cloud.
In the
It's on Amazon servers, which is still what the federal government. sees.
Okay, and is there opportunity for you to actually download that software or the
Yeah,
the
so, and
backup?
at any time we decide to leave, they will get. I think you have to give them 60 days, but they will provide all that information back to you. It's our information.
And what if they just close their doors one day?
That would be sad.
It would.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the cloud to rain.
Yeah, well, with cloud, I don't have a problem with cloud software. What I have a problem with is all the data being only in the cloud because things can happen. We saw it with Amazon Web Services specifically. So it's a good question to ask, but
I can ask for if they could provide data on it so often that we at least can keep it before any kind of crash or,
right,
just.
something like that.
On his question about what happens if they go away, how long they been in business?
Let me pull that up. I'd have to look back. Get the answer for you.
Because the way this works anymore is they develop it, they get it going, and then they sell it. Does that hurt us, help us?
I guess it's been a while. The fact that they have 2,500 customers, that doesn't happen overnight.
That's true.
Yeah, and I mean. I feel like everything that they're gonna import in that we already have existing is gonna come in the form of, like a spreadsheet or, comma delineated values. So. Yeah, there's always a chance that they could get bought out or changed, but I feel like with today's technology. That we'd be able to convert over one way or another to new software, but they pull up for.
Okay, and the only other question is, or what I'd like to know is what's their uptime policy?
2001 they started.
It's just something to find out.
What's policy?
Their uptime policy. Most people have an uptime policy whenever their software is a service.
Okay,
And that's important because the last thing you want to know is that, well, they're in India and they do all their maintenance while you're open for business.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Okay.
So, just to make
uptime
sure.
policy, okay, I'll get that information.
And there's usually a plan so that if there's a problem, if it's this type of problem, they're gonna respond in X time. If it's a different level of problem,
That might be in the contract.
on in another period.
Okay, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Is there support?
Standard, okay.
And what was the other thing?
They usually have performance standards, so if there are outages, it defines how quickly they'll respond.
Okay. That might have to. Okay, performance standards.
Well, you said they're open till 5 now.
2 hours ahead.
Yeah. Okay,
I have that.
what else?
So getting to the capital part of the operating budget, I added a $30,000 budget for Gulf Boulevard holiday lighting. This would be I understand at some point we did have light up holiday utility pole lighting. I don't know how long ago that was, but we did have it. And that's why we have the plugs on some of the poles. Primarily on the main streets. So we have currently, you have existing 19 and they were pretty consistent all the way to get up to 25th, and then there's a big gap. So part of this expense would be to have enough holiday decorations that we have, every major street up. And then when we get up to here where we get the gaps, so we just keep that same distancing.
I'm assuming we'll be presented with those decorations and vote on them.
Oh, no, yeah. So this is just to have it in the budget, but yeah, it would definitely have you guys involved.
Well, you don't have anything going forward like maintenance or anything where they pretty. You know what I'm saying?
I can talk to them, another city like Largo, they got them, or Indian Rocks, and see how much replacing they're doing. I can tell you right now with the Christmas tree, it's actually, and the star. We haven't had to do any major replacement, and that's been, what, 4 or 5 years now? That's an old.
Except for whenever I don't hit the button.
Yeah. Real quick, on this portion of the budget, I'm taking out the patrol boat that we had in there. So I'm gonna delete that out. It's in this draft, but I don't think we need it at this point in time. As far as capital, projects, we're saving on the same amounts and plan. Most of the stuff is, HVAC, roof replacement. The bridge repairs, bridge replacement, we're saving for that in the long run. One thing to note is, we're still saving for street resurfacing because we used everything up to this year in our current project, so we're starting to save for whatever we're gonna be resurfacing next. We have money in the bridge lighting replacement. I actually, for the first time, expense that account for a repair. But that's really kind of a piece of money. If we have a storm, we gotta get those lights, if they fell down, and get them back up before we collect any kind of reimbursement. But yeah, again, same savings program. And then as we need replacement, whether it's a seawall or a fishing dock, that will come up in a meeting as a proposal. The marina budget, right now, we saw our last increase per foot in 2023, and our final increase per the resolution will be in 2025, April 1st. Right now, kind of keeping everything working, making repairs as we have to. But kind of status quo in the marina. And then it's the stormwater budget. We're collecting the same stormwater assessment fees. And again, repairing pipes as they become compromised. We're taking care of a lot of our pipe maintenance in this project of existing pipes, just because we knew if we bid it out as one big bid, we were gonna get a better price. But there's always things coming up. There's always cleanings to be done. And as we have money, I'd like to continue to purchase, the backflow prevent check valves. Because there are some areas when we see these real high 3.6 tides where you do see them pop out of different drains, not as bad as the ones we've already done, but it's still a thing. So I also like the fact that when we put them in, it prevents the barnacles and oysters from getting up into the pipes. So that helps us in the long run of doing the maintenance.
We collect a flat fee for,
We do.
have we ever looked at like a mill fee? Would that generate more money? Just, you know, we can talk about pumps and everything like that.
Could be considered. I think when they modeled the original assessment, they just
Did a flat
went
fee.
with what the consultant recommended. Started on something.
And where do the Ninth Street improvements come in? This budget or the current budget?
So the 9th Street pump project, right now would come out of reserves. You know, we don't have right now the design and the plan. I mean, we kind of have an idea of what the number would be if we want to stick it in our next year's budget. We can do that.
I think it'd be good to have an item for it.
Okay. I think we'll be closer to that number, especially as we get, you know, August. You know, but yeah, so I'll add something for now.
Good.
Placeholder. That's all.
That's it. Did anyone have any changes or recommendations that are not in this draft budget? I think the only thing I saw really was that you were looking into the attorney contract.
Yes.
We were going to possibly look into price shopping for police services and you removed the boat. You know, he was gonna try to sneak that in there again.
The vote was still in there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was, but I'm gonna pull it out.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about that.
There's one tiny item that I just like to comment on, and I commend Kyle for this. For the library charges.
Oh, yes, I skipped over that. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
because I'll just state for the record that I was offended, incensed, irritated when I learned that Bella Beach had increased the cost for library cards. And I thought, if this is a pretty fundamental service that a modern day civilization offers their people. And so I'm glad that we're taking care of that. And I will say too, when I first moved here and I found out about how they were doing the library, I thought, how smart is that? We're too small of a town to support your own library. So go next door, get a card, come back, and we'll reimburse you. And I thought, great. Well, you pay for only the people that ask for it. You don't have a special assessment for it, and you allow people to educate themselves. And when I just thought it was so petty when people started playing around with that reimbursement. So thank you for that.
Have you been talking to my wife?
What did we change? What did we change?
So on non-departmental, 519, it's on page 12. 519-0810 library services. We had budgeted $2,500. We bumped it up to 5,000. The actual for 2023 budget was 2,150. It's really just from, at one point, we dropped it from the full reimbursement of $100 down to half the reimbursement with the thought that people were getting cards that weren't using them. But I can tell you right now, we never really saw a major fall off. We just got a lot of angry people that were like not
They
under,
were having to pay $50.
didn't like the fact that we weren't reimbursing the full
Right.
thing. So I added in here just from getting resident comments to go back to full reimbursement.
Okay.
It's not a huge chunk of money, but I don't see it skyrocketing just because people can get a library card, because it still takes a lot. You got to go down there and you got to get registered, then you got to come here, and
Right.
you're not really going to do that unless you're going to use it.
It's a beautiful library, but
Oh, it
they
is.
charge $100 a year. I think it's a little excessive. I mean, and now they said you can join, but it would cost us.
To join the cooperative is
Yeah.
way higher.
Yeah.
I have a number somewhere from last year, but it doesn't even make sense.
But I'm just saying,
My little bitty town in in Illinois, it was a $400 a year assessment for the library, 15 years ago.
Mine was free.
Mine was too.
Yeah, you went in there, showed residency and they gave you a card,
Was it coming out of your taxes?
Yeah, but I mean,
There was a line on the tax form.
So that's what
I
you're saying, you
remember
actually
that.
paid $400
Yeah.
a year
Yeah.
for your taxes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Ding.
we pay 100. I mean, my wife, and my daughter, they each pay 100, before, but, I just think that's a little steep,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course, we're not using someone else's library too, but, yeah.
It's a nice library.
Oh, look, it's a beautiful library. And I mean, the whole thing is gorgeous. I mean,
It's 4 books.
yeah, yeah.
Kyle, what's next? On the, what's the next date?
Oh, the next, so we got a regular meeting coming up, and then the next budget workshop's gonna be July 15th.
July the what?
15th.
Sorry. Okay. Right, now we're on to, general business. We have any general business? Unfinished business. Would anyone like to go home?
Just in a comment, so I'm just checking my calendar. I will not be here. For the beginning of the July through the 10th. Whatever that's worth, so I'll miss the next council meeting. But we're still 3 strong, so that works, right?
Yes,
For
it
the new
does.
charter. Sweet.
Any other comments? No? Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn? Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's go home, everyone.
Yay,
The sun is shining.
still, yay.
We still need